I have always been fascinated by the ocean. Throughout this expedition, our divers have shared the sea with extraordinary but often little-known fish, corals, plants, and animals. But for me, the most mythical and deeply touching inhabitants of the deep are whales.
The team has headed to the Silver Bank off the coast of the Dominican Republic in the Caribbean Sea. Every year in winter, humpback whales return to this protected shoal to breed and give birth.
It's a magnificent place where one can slip into the whale's environment and share their world. There are few places on the planet like this where we can draw back the curtain on their lives. By spending time with these whales, we can better understand them and ultimately better protect them.
There are few places where humans can share the underwater world of the last giants on Earth. But access to the Silver Bank Sanctuary is strictly controlled. Only 3 boats have permits to observe humpback whales during the breeding and calving season. The crew has left the Sedna 4 to join the Sun Dancer, a ship that has plied these waters for many years. It takes about 12 hours to reach the sanctuary. For this expedition, 2 leading experts on whales have joined mission leader Jean Lemire. Richard Sears, who travels the world to study whales, and Sal Sergio, who began his career as a biologist on Silver Bank. After nearly 30 years, Sal and Richard are back on Silver Bank with the same passion and desire to study whales.
The idea of coming here back then was to gather all the scientists from the Northeast who were working on humpback whales, from the St. Lawrence to Newfoundland and Labrador to New England, together on Silver Bank. When I found out about it, I was naturally thrilled to take part and come observe where these whales go in the winter. It was the first time that we really focused on photo identification of humpback flukes to find out where all the whales on Silver Bank were coming from.
I was here 28 years ago, and when the opportunity to come back to Silver Bank arose, there was no way I could resist. On that trip, it just so happened that there were several major scientists that were currently doing work with humpback whales. So I got quite lucky to be involved in a project of that level. And I was on the breeding grounds of humpback whales in the North Atlantic, one of the most densest aggregations on the planet.
Scientists like to go where the whales are abundant. Doing research far at sea is extremely difficult, so where there are a lot of whales, you'll often find an abundance of scientists too.
Jean and Richard are old research colleagues. From the Sea of Cortez to Iceland to the Gulf of St. Lawrence in Canada, they have worked together to photograph different species of whales around the world. Photography is the basis of whale research. Patterns of skin pigmentation are unique to each animal, which allows them to be recognized and told apart. This is essential to studying their behavior.
This is an example of a humpback photo ID. It's like a fingerprint. They are kind enough to lift their fluke when they dive, and the pattern on the underside of the tail is unique for each animal. It can vary from completely black to completely white. We learn about the species by studying individuals, and there are now huge photo ID catalogs of humpback populations around the world. Now that the catalogs have been digitized, when we get to a place where someone has taken pictures of humpbacks, we can attempt to find a match and identify the individual using a simple computer or even an iPad.
Photo identification has helped pinpoint the main gathering sites of humpbacks around the world. The discovery of Silverbank, the humpback's main breeding site in the Atlantic, is a result of this collaboration between different research teams. In the Pacific, humpbacks gather around the Hawaiian Islands in winter to breed and give birth.
When I was much younger, I had the privilege of working in Hawaii for several winters. I had a scientific permit to swim with the whales and study their behavior during the breeding season. It was fascinating work. This underwater world is so foreign to us. We know so little about it, but we think that the whale's reproductive strategy revolves around the females. Males are often aggressive toward each other, and we sometimes witness intense combats to win the favors of a female. The male closest to the female is called the escort. He is constantly confronted by other males called challengers. They want to get close to the female to mate with her. This can lead to violent combats. But this is all hypothesis. No one has ever witnessed humpback whales mating. The same goes for calving. We do not yet have convincing visual proof. I remember one day I filmed the erect penis of a male approaching a female. The footage has become popular because it's not something you see every day. But spectacular as it was, it didn't prove a thing. It's all hypothesis. There are clues, but in science, you need irrefutable proof. There were situations where we were surrounded by 10 or 15 males fighting amongst each other, and it was tense at times. But they are among the most memorable moments of my career. In recent decades, scientists have made their most important scientific discoveries about whales at winter gathering areas like the Dominican Republic.
The seasonal gatherings of humpbacks on breeding grounds give scientists a chance to accumulate a large amount of data on the various subpopulations.
It's marvelous to monitor a group over a long distance on Silverbank. I couldn't have imagined it any better when Jean spoke to me about returning here. It's amazing to watch this group of active males on the surface.
That's a baby breach.
The clear water at Silverbank lets scientists share the whale's underwater world. This protected shoal is shallow, making it easier to observe and study whale behavior throughout the water column. Mothers and calves are much calmer than males, who often engage in combat. They don't move around much, allowing biologists to observe the interactions between mother and calf.
Wow. Yeah, did you see the way the calf was let go by the mother?
Yeah.
Just came right up to the surface. She stayed down there, and then she came up. It was nice. Amazing.
Calves are often reckless. In a spirit of mutual curiosity, the mother allows the scientists and her offspring to interact.
Mother came up kind of unexpectedly too, and I didn't know where to go.
You're not scared. These are what I call little moments of eternity. They get etched into your memory forever.
It was fantastic. I've never had an experience like that before.
Amazing. Amazing.
Are we going?
I would say the car works. She just came up and breezed through there without touching any of us.
I would have touched her pectorals, but I wouldn't have had it.
Yeah.
Right there.
You would have touched what?
The mother allowed her curious calf to approach us. It was no more than 3 months old.
Donc les curieux, donc ils nagent vers nous.
The mother was calm and watchful. If the calf came too close, she would just come over and turn. And we were sort of trapped between the calf and the mother. Daniela wound up right over the mother's back, but she didn't move. And it was the mother who moved off. Not far, maybe 100 feet, and then returned to the bottom. The calf moved under the mother. Really, it was the perfect situation.
In our experience working in Mexico, the whales aren't as curious and they're not as tolerant. So we can approach them in the boat, but they don't come over and check us out and go under the boat and look at us and approach us more in the water. That was completely new.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic. I mean, and also it was so long. I mean, sometimes you get in with whales and you get a nice gift for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but this went on for hours. And we'd get out, and this time we were able to stay in a good long amount of time. It's been a really nice moments.
Incredible. With encounters like that, you can die happy tomorrow. Incredible. It's the very end of the season.
de mâles.
So there are a lot of very active males in large groups.
C'est toute la relation.
We want to study the relationship between the escort and the challengers.
C'est ce mâle qui est le plus près de
The escort is the male closest to the female, and all the other males fight to get as close to the female as possible.
Et parmi toute cette activité,
Amidst all this action are a few isolated males who decide to sing.
décide de chanter comme ça. Donc, on va mettre
We'll put the hydrophone in the water and hear many singers because the songs carry well in the water.
beaucoup dans l'eau.
But the hard part is isolating one. It's challenging, but we probably have the best people on board for it, so with a bit of luck, we'll be successful.
Chansons, on va y aller.
Right now we're searching for a singer. It's kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack. And what we want to do is keep moving, listening each time we move to look for a single individual singer to get louder and louder. And once it gets louder from one stop to another, we know we're moving in the right direction, and then we can start to look for him on the surface.
Finding a lone male singer among groups of humpback whales is a real challenge. Scientists must identify certain parts of the song, long, prolonged growls, that mean the male is about to surface. They then scan the horizon for the whale's spout on the surface and try to approach the male slowly to avoid any kind of disturbance.
When you find your singer, you're ecstatic. When you slip into the water with him, the song is so powerful that your internal organs vibrate. It's hard to describe. It's simply extraordinary. Just like human songs, humpback whale songs are organized into verses and refrains. The song changes over the course of a year, but the amazing thing is that at some point, all the males end up singing the same song. We don't understand exactly how this happens, but it's extraordinary. And what's even more incredible, listen to what happens if we speed up the song. Here, we've sped it up 14 times. Listen. It's very much like the structure of birdsong in its complexity. It's just that humpback whales sing very, very slowly. It's fascinating.
Song in the humpback whale is a major part of a breeding system and the role it plays in the breeding system. So it attracts a lot of attention because of the emotional attachment that people have with song. And that's both on the level of what we as humans come to, what song is all about. Song is an incredible aspect of every single culture. It's a very important aspect of every single culture on the planet.
This song changes throughout the breeding season. In spring, when the whales begin their long migration north, the males stop singing. The singing of males is often associated with courtship, a sort of seductive serenade to attract females. But this is just a theory. Despite significant advances in the understanding of whale behavior, The exact function of the humpback's song remains a mystery.
At any given time, all males in a group sing essentially the same or very similar songs. They change the song over time. It's a gradual and progressive change. And all whales within a group change their song in the same ways. So they're learning from each other. And the last remarkable aspect of it is that within an ocean basin, animals that have contact at some point in time are sharing those songs and sharing those changes and changing in the same way.
Scientists still do not understand how males share the same song. They also wonder how the song is transmitted over long distances, well beyond the hearing range of a single group gathered in the same area. But beyond science, the incredible emotion produced when you experience this unique phenomenon is perhaps its greatest mystery. With the arrival of spring begins the long migration north. After fasting during the breeding season, it is time for the whales to head to the rich waters of the northern latitudes. Photo identification and satellite tags have identified different feeding sites in the Atlantic, ranging from the coast of New England up to Iceland and even Norway. In the Pacific, humpback whales migrate too. They leave the breeding area of Hawaii and head to Alaska to feed. Some whales in this area of the Pacific have developed a truly special feeding technique. Rather than feed alone, some humpbacks form groups to capture their prey, the herring that school in the rich waters of Alaska in summer. These whales have developed a shrill feeding call, which they use to synchronize their assault on schools of fish. They also use bubbles expelled from their blowholes to create a sort of net. The feeding call frightens the herring, while the bubble net herds them together. The work of biologist Fred Sharp has helped to understand this truly unique fishing technique, one used only by a small number of humpback whales.
I worked with Fred Sharp here in Alaska a long time ago. I think it was 1996. We were trying to film everything on the surface to understand what was going on. At the same time, we had hydrophones in the water to try to understand who was doing what in the groups. Later, this work formed the basis for many well-known studies.
I arrived in Alaska in 1987, and I came up as a naturalist and saw my first bubble net and never looked back. I guess the most important thing I've learned about these humpback whales is that they're all incredible individuals. Each one seems to have its own story. It's a story that may last up to a century. They have their own ways of feeding. They have their own friends, their own places they call home. And that's been the most wonderful part, is just learning the tremendous lives of these whales. The humpback whale in southeast Alaska is truly one of our most abundant and amazing backyard predators. Almost all of them are from Polynesia, the Hawaiian Islands, and they come up here in May and they'll spend 6 to 8 months feeding on herring and krill, and then around Christmas time they head back to the islands of Hawaii and complete their amazing life cycle.
Right there, right there.
Hold this position.
Captain, should we move a little bit to have the photo ID of this one?
That's just phenomenal.
He's gonna die.
There he goes.
Great.
The idea is to be as perpendicular to the fluke as possible. Each fluke has a distinctive pigmentation pattern that allows us to photo ID the animals. It is important to be able to identify individual whales because if we want to study their behavior, we have to be able to tell the individuals apart. All body marks are important, so we try to take a lateral photograph of the dorsal fin and then one of the fluke. That way, we can be sure that we get the ID right. And if we're ever in shallow water and the whales don't show their tails, we also have the dorsal fin as a reference.
How many animals do you have in your catalog?
About 1,000.
1,000?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pretty big. Jan's got about 2,000, and the park, there's probably about 3,000, 3,500 animals for the northern southeast Alaska. A few Guadalajarans come up, a few Mexicans, a few Asiatics show up once in a while, but
Mainly Hawaii?
yeah, almost all Hawaiian. Bubbles,
Right
here. See that nice softball side?
Yeah.
And the classic. Now those are the ones that really scare the fish the most. Bigger, faster, they reflect more light, they make a lot more noise. Those are the real workhorse of the bubble net. And it looks like this one animal looks like it might be going in a counterclockwise circle. That's kind of interesting. About 90% of the animals blow in a clockwise circle.
Oh, yeah.
And it's remarkable in that it's the same level of handedness or laterality that humans have. So it's another striking similarity between humpback whales and humans.
Here we are, barren off, warm spring. So what's the plan, Fred?
Well, I figure we're gonna have a lot of fog this morning, so what do you think, Cap? You feel comfortable navigating in these fogs?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is not a problem. It's supposed to burn off by midday, and it's actually I think it already is starting to burn off a little bit.
So I figure good time for running north, and hopefully things will burn off by the time we get up to the confluence of Peril Strait and Chatham. And that's why we probably got 3-4 hours to get up there.
When we arrived by plane, we saw, good group of whales around Parker Point.
Right.
So, it's close to Lagoon. So.
Yeah. Typically, there's a lot of herring schools still in this area at this time of the year, and it's been kind of an unusual year. Seems like the herring have sort of picked up and moved out of Dodge, and so in some ways we're looking for the prey as much as we are the whales.
We have the weather on our side, so let's move.
We do. The humpbacks feed in a remarkable variety of ways. And the krill, these small shrimp-like crustaceans, they're quite easy for the whales to catch, and so most of the time when they're feeding on the krill, they can do it alone. Typically they hunt the krill by just swimming up to a school and opening their mouth and engulfing them. They'll laterally lunge, they'll roll to the surface, they will lunge up through them, but they will use a whole variety of techniques.
Amazing. There's whales everywhere. Everywhere.
Hey, he's yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was great.
Amazing.
So that's your friend.
Beautiful animal. You know, it's funny that he is so friendly. Did you see on his tail where he had ropes, where he'd been in nets before?
Yeah. Yeah.
He has been insulted by humanity, but yet he comes over to be curious and interactive. It's amazing. It's almost like forgiveness.
Yeah. It's wow.
On such a beautiful evening too.
Yeah. Perfect.
There's his footprint.
Yeah.
What do you suppose? He just curious? He
Just curious.
Just
yeah.
wanting to know who we are and what's up.
Yeah.
And
Alors on est vraiment avec
We are with a very curious whale, one that keeps passing right under our boat. And what's amazing is that it comes very close and then turns slightly to look at us. It's done this 3 or 4 times.
And see, again, instead of chasing the whale,
yeah.
you just wait
Yeah.
and you're attacked.
That's right. Couldn't have said it better, Massan. Couldn't have said it better.
Going under, going under.
Hello, hello. Thanks for coming back.
It's gonna be near you, Captain.
Thanks for the fluke ID. Nice. Amazing.
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 Yeah, coming right here, right here. Woo-hoo! Look on the side.
He's rolling over.
Rolling. Wow.
Yeah.
Ils savent tellement ce
They know exactly what they're doing. They swim around the boat and turn to look at us. This one rolled right on its side to really get a good look at us.
Qui on est. C'est très difficile.
It's hard to know why they do it, but one thing is sure. It's very much a conscious act.
You know, I've just been so incredibly curious about them for, a quarter of a century, and it's nice to finally think they want to know a little bit about us. It's really touching, and it's really, it's kind of a gift.
Yeah.
And they share so many similarities with humans. Their brain is gigantic, and it's laced with spindle neurons, and in humans, those are associated with language acquisition, social intelligence, and compassion. And we see a lot of compassionate acts with humpback whales. The way they'll protect their young if there's predators around, and they'll come to each other's aid, and just general interspecies interest. It's a sense of higher cognitive function.
Yeah.
The weather has taken a turn for the worse, so it will be harder to work now. Today we hope that the whales we saw yesterday, individually using bubbles to feed down deep, will come together at the surface so we can observe them using this technique as a group when the attacks are synchronized with song. It's truly spectacular.
Calling the Washington State Ferry Fairweather. This is the Wayfinder. Do you copy 16?
This is the State Ferry Fairweather, WDB 5604. Back to the call.
Okay, Fairweather. We kindly wanted to inquire about any number of cetaceans, particularly humpback whales, that you might have seen in your journey through Peril Strait. Over.
At 11:03, we saw them bubble net feeding just inside between Pavarotti and Light 22. And at 14:30, we spotted a couple of whales, but there wasn't a lot of bird activity, and we didn't see any bubble feeding on our way, this direction.
Well, thank you so much, and kindly, if you, in your further journeys, come across any more significant numbers of bubblenet feeding humpback whales, we'd really appreciate to hear from you.
Roger.
The people of Alaska know whales and their behavior. This is an asset for Fred Sharp, who must travel great distances to find the whales that use this particular feeding technique. The observations received from the ferry now guide the boat to a small, isolated inlet.
These whales are hungry, and they're looking for food. They're cruising the strip. They're looking to mix it up. They need about half a ton of food a day, and humpbacks have this large trick-or-treat bag made out of spandex on their tummy, and they feed by engulfing big chunks out of the ecosystem every time they feed.
It's almost night. They normally, slow down at this time of day, right?
Well, this is very typical. About this time of the evening, the whales, the rate with which they're feeding slows down. They seem to lose the beat on the herring. The fish are more scattered out, and they move out to mid-channel where they can get their sea room and have plenty of space, ocean moorage, and they go to sleep. And they get a good night's sleep, so they're ready to get at it in the morning.
Before night sets in, Fred and Jean have photo ID'd a small group of feeding whales. This is standard procedure, almost a reflex for researchers who use cameras as a primary research tool. But that night, an examination of the photographs reveals something unexpected. A wonderful surprise that also demonstrates the effectiveness of photo identification. An old friend has reappeared.
I think that might be Trumpeter.
Yeah, we found him. And great news, if it's Trumpeter, we know that's a good leader.
Yeah.
Very good leader.
Trumpeter and Jan are big old friends.
Yes.
They go way back.
Oh, yeah.
Remember back in 1996?
Yep.
Here's our friend Trumpeter.
Yeah.
And you can compare it to what we obtained on this voyage. And what do you think?
Yeah, that's a match. Look, that little thing here. Same pigmentation pattern.
Nice serrated trailing edge. And here's why we call him Trumpeter. The most amazing sounds. Makes the most brilliant low. It starts out with this nice low, steady, and then he just goes off the scale. It's like you're saying, Miles Davis.
Nice.
In the morning, Trumpeter, the humpback whale first identified in 1996, was waiting for them.
Nice. Trumpeter again. Yep, you were right.
That's him, eh?
Yeah, that's amazing. God, it's like...
In 96, Trumpeter was leading a big group, and he was really, active, and he was the one who was starting the feeding call, doing the bubbles and everything, and always going very high compared to the other, right in the middle.
He disappeared from the database for like 7 years, and we thought he'd gone to the great bubblenet in the sky, but he's back and leading Team Bubblenet. That should be plenty deep. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, nice and loud. The feeding calls that the humpbacks produce appear to be unique here in Southeast Alaska. Everywhere you go, it seems like they have their special nuances, but Here in Alaska, we're richly rewarded by these loud, beautiful feeding calls, larger groups with more stable, enduring friendships. Oh, nice feeding call. Clear, pure. I mean, it hurts my ears. I sit in the lab and listen to this hour after hour, and it's like, after a while, it's like, this is crazy.
Do they start the feeding call first and the bubble after, or?
Seems to be a lot of variation there. Yeah, a lot of individual style, but typically we'll hear the bubbles and the feeding call start about the same time. Oh, now you can hear the bubbles coming up. You hear that? Deploying the bubble net, percolating it out of the blowhole as far as we know.
These Alaskan whales have developed a unique feeding technique in which whales cooperate to capture prey. After more than 15 years, scientists have concluded that trumpeter is still a leader among the whales, often sounding the charge and commanding the troops.
Those sounds that you're hearing, those are the whales diving below the herring schools and producing these incredibly loud, annoying sounds. It's almost like turning a fire alarm on a building and all you want to do is run for the exits. Well, that's what the whales are doing. And one whale going in usually a clockwise fashion, and the bubbles rise up and effervesce and create this amazing corral. It's almost like a rocket tube that the whales then come shooting up and engulf the prey at the surface. The increase of humpback whales, both here in the Pacific and throughout the world, is one of the best conservation success stories. And it's remarkable to see how humans can, exhibit concern for the environment and then show some conservation wisdom. And we're richly rewarded to see the humpbacks returning to all these waters. I don't think we'll ever start hunting the humpback whales in a large manner again. I think they're just too beloved and too many people care about them. And I think there's many other concerns, climate change, ocean acidification, pollution, acoustic sounds bothering them. There's many, many concerns, but I don't think the harpoon is one of them.
The complexity of whale song is an exquisite example of how nature and evolution have shaped living things to exist in balance with their environment. It took millions of years to create this balance. So more than ever, it's vital that we do everything we can to protect the living heritage of our planet, so that whale song can go on delighting our children and our children's children. We headed to the Cayman Islands in the Caribbean Sea. The archipelago consists of 3 main islands: Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, and Cayman Brac. Tourists and foreigners come here mainly because of the great beaches and the scuba diving conditions that make this place one of the best diving sites in the world.
Located south of Cuba and northwest of Jamaica, the Cayman Islands have an impressive marine biodiversity. On land, the population explosion on the island of Grand Cayman has reduced critical habitat for species that are threatened with extinction. This is the case of the blue iguana, an endemic species which is considered one of the rarest animals on the planet. It can measure up to 1.5 meters in length and weigh up to 14 kilos. The blue iguana can live close to 70 years, but it still has to survive in its habitat. In the 2000s, there were few more than a dozen animals in the wild. But the biologist Fred Burton has made it his mission to save them from extinction. A daunting task for a reptile that scientists have classified as extinct in the wild.
On Little Cayman, other conservation issues face the residents of the small island. Here, biodiversity issues are not apparent, but an invader has taken up residence in the pristine waters around the island. And since the islanders depend on tourism and diving, well, they are worried.
Thank you.
In the early 1990s, a few aquarium fish were accidentally released into the sea in Florida. Native to the Indo-Pacific, they began to reproduce and populate the Caribbean. This invader, which now threatens the age-old balance of the coral reefs, is called the lionfish.
In less than 20 years, this species has really caused incredible havoc. One lionfish living on a coral reef can reduce the population of other small fish from 80 to 90%.
The decline of the ocean's large predators, combined with the uncontrolled spread of the lionfish, is a recipe for disaster. If nothing is done to control the invasion, the tourism sector of the Cayman's economy is in serious danger. The professional divers of Little Cayman have watched as the lionfish spread throughout the island's waters. Now these dive guides organize a weekly lionfish hunt to try to control the dramatic expansion of the species.
The first lionfish was discovered in Little Cayman in about 2008, here on the south side of the island. And it was just one lonesome fish, and it was quickly discovered, and we went out there and grabbed it. And then we didn't see any fish for quite some time, possibly about 6 months. And then we started to see not just one, we started to see more than one popping up on different reefs. And that number just quickly escalated into tens and then into many, many, many fish.
It took just a few aquarium fish to cause one of the worst environmental disasters in modern times. The lionfish invasion continues to spread and now extends far beyond the Caribbean.
Genetically, in fact, scientists speculate that these fish could have come from common ancestors, the few creatures released off the coast of Florida. That's all it takes to upset the millennial balance of an ecosystem.
They eat a lot. Pulled stomachs out of fish and seen a large amount of fish and crustaceans, everything in their belly. Seen them hunt fish actively on the reef, and they just don't stop.
They have a foreign predation strategy, which means the fish here don't recognize it as a predator. They've got these really big, pectoral fins, and what they'll do is they'll sort of herd a fish towards the reef, right? And then they do something that's very unique. And what they do is they start to blow water out of their mouth towards the prey. And what they basically do is they point themselves right at the lionfish, and then the lionfish just sucks it in. This whole island relies on dive tourism, and we are the ambassadors to this environment, so it has sort of fallen down onto our hands to look after the environment.
The people of Little Cayman are worried because they depend on tourism. The spectacular beauty of the coral reefs and their colorful fish attract divers here from all over the world.
Each week, the population is mobilized. A squad of professional divers set out to hunt for lionfish. Their goal, kill as many as possible. Attempt to control the invasion so that other species of fish can continue to grow on the coral reefs.
The latest scientific study that's been completed this year in 2011 shows that to have an impact on lionfish, you have to have a large, concentrated effort on a small area to be effective. The industry that we're trying to protect services the Bloody Bay Marine Park, which is a small area of only about 3 miles long. So we have a high concentrated effort that we're putting into that Bloody Bay area to try and keep our marine park relatively free of lionfish so that we can maintain the biodiversity within the marine park. All right, we're going to Penguin's Leap. It's up on the north side. It's way past CCMI, so it's going to take us about 30 minutes to get there probably. Good?
Okay, great.
We have lionfish as well as the rest of the Caribbean has lionfish, and they've just invaded all of the Caribbean. Then there's going to be no difference from diving here in Little Cayman or in Cancun or in Belize or anywhere else in the world. So I think it's going to be very important that we continue killing these animals, and that's the only thing that's going to keep this special spot different than the whole rest of the Caribbean.
Marine Park, we've done a really good job of eliminating a lot of lionfish to the point where we don't see them on a daily basis anymore. It's very good, but there's still lots of other parts of the island we don't get to. It's what we're going to get to right now, where there are still lots of lionfish that need to be removed. So hopefully we'll have a big turnout tonight.
That they have, where they put tuna. Even though the boat seems very busy, it's we've virtually got everyone that's left on the island to come out today to come and cull. With most of the dive masters being away for our shutdown during the hurricane season, it's very important for us to keep culling all the time. Whether it be inside the marine park or outside, wherever we get the opportunity to go, we have to go no matter what. Well, best case scenario, we're hopefully going to have a big catch. We've got 16 people in the water with 14 spears. So 14 spears, we're hoping for a fairly big number, maybe above 80. We're always hoping for 100. We have had days over 100, so we're always hoping for a big catch. actually just mine are whitey.
The efforts of the divers were successful, but despite their success, it is work that has to be repeated constantly because the reproductive rate of the species is very impressive, and if the effort is relaxed, the invaders will continue to eat all the other small fish, and there will be a complete degradation of the coral reef.
75. You know, that's 75 fish. If you average it out to 20 fish per day that they're eating, that's 75 times 20 is how many fish got eaten within the last 24 hours.
That's a lot of fish.
That's a huge amount of fish.
The work of biologist Fred Burton on Grand Cayman is truly inspiring. With a small team, he tries to reintroduce a natural species, the blue iguana, which many biologists already consider extinct in the wild.
So what do we have here?
So these are the original things. I always knew I wanted to get involved in conservation in some way, shape or form. Even as a small child, I was crazy about that kind of stuff. In Europe, it's very unusual to find an ecosystem which has not been influenced at all by humans. And here it was everywhere, and it was a very exciting thing for me to be seeing these things. And that was the time that I started getting involved with these crazy giant blue lizards. The first time I met one, I had no idea that these things existed. In 2002, we did a very detailed survey, and it was the most depressing survey I have ever been involved in, because all of the places we used to see iguanas, there were none. Optimistically, there cannot have been more than 12 left in the wild, and they weren't finding each other to breed. So the population was doomed. It was functionally extinct, as we put it, technically speaking. They were there, but there was no future. And this was shocking to us because we thought we had time, and no, we didn't have any time at all.
Fred Burton's task was enormous. In fact, there were only a few creatures left in the wild, and many biologists thought that Fred was something of a dreamer, that the task was too daunting for a single person.
He patiently tracked down a few wild animals and began a breeding program. Today, the Botanic Park on Grand Cayman is home to the last blue iguanas on Earth, and the captive bred population is healthy.
So this is the captive facility, Jean.
Yep.
We have about 300 iguanas here. Yeah, here's one. This is, we call this one Juan Lins. He's one of our founder males. These are the original wild origin animals that we are using to represent the genetics of the original population. They grow up to 10 kilograms or maybe a lot more occasionally. Rare dominant males can get quite giant. They're vegetarians. They eat almost exclusively plant matter. They eat leaves, flowers, berries, fungi sometimes. They're very intelligent. They quite clearly are able to think ahead, make a strategy, and then carry out that strategy. We've watched this with mating strategies of the male iguanas, and it's very complex, their behavior. They're not dumb creatures by any stretch of the imagination.
It all started here, in a small incubator in Fred's house.
If we'd left these things in the ground, it would be 50-50 whether they would hatch successfully or not, because the ground could get dry, it could rain really heavily, the pens could flood. So it's much, much safer to take the eggs out, put them in the incubator here, and here we have better than a 90% hatch rate. It's a very secure kind of way of making sure we get as many baby blue iguanas as we can from those nests. When they hatch, they're tiny, they're about this long, but they grow very, very fast. And by the time they're 2 years old, they're naturally predator-proof, effectively. They get too big for the native snakes. Jean, these are the cages where we have the 2-year-old iguanas, the ones that we're getting ready to release into the wild.
Scanner. $86661.
Correct.
All right, good. Let's get it in a bag.
So it will sleep there for tonight?
Yes, we'll keep them in these bags. We'll hang the bags inside our backpacks, ready to take in the morning, and they will cool down tonight, and they'll be very peaceful. And
Fred Burton's great challenge now is to reintroduce the species in nature. His successes, but also his difficulties, have become famous around the world, which was what convinced the government of the Cayman Islands to set up a protected area where he can release the young animals in the wild.
But getting to the protected area is no easy task. We have to walk for hours in sweltering heat, on paths with razor-sharp rocks, not to mention the poisonous plants, cactus spines, and snakes.
So Jean, we are on the boundary now of the Collier's Wilderness Reserve. This is the protected area on our left now.
How big it is?
It's about 190 acres. That's around about very roughly a square kilometre. It's not huge, but the island isn't big, yeah?
Yeah. Rough trail, but beautiful.
Yeah, I love this environment. I think it's like a natural rock garden.
Yeah.
In 2008, we had a disaster. Some drug-crazed guy and a tame dog, a attack dog on a leash, came into the captive facility here and killed 6, 7, 8 blue iguanas. It was like a slaughter. It was crazy. And the news got onto that, and it just went like boof all over the world. But what was interesting is as soon as it went public, the population of the Cayman Islands got up in arms. There were people raising money for us. Companies wanted to pay for a security fence around the captive facility. It was in the newspapers non-stop for 2 weeks here. It was the disaster and the media coverage that made the politicians of the time pay attention a little. So what I thought was, okay, let's make the world care about blue iguanas. And then we can tell the world if the blue iguana is going to survive, we must protect some of their habitat. It took a long time to work, but it is working now. At last it is working. Here we go, Jean. This is our little home from home in the woods. Yeah.
Home sweet home.
This is where our volunteers sleep when we have them camping out here. This is Laco. He's here to meet us. I didn't know if we'd see him today.
That's
cool
a
creature,
big one.
Yeah. This is the dominant male in this area. He's the biggest land animal around, so he's not afraid of us, he's not afraid of anybody. He was born, I think, in 1998, and we released him in 2001 in the Botanic Park. And he lived there very happily for a number of years, and then he got very big. And some of the people who visited got a little bit afraid of him, and it got to a point where well, maybe he would be better out in the wilderness. So we brought him out here and released him with some females. His objective is to have exclusive control of as many different female territories as he can. I hatched this guy from an egg in an incubator. We reared him for 3 years, I think, in the cages in the captive facility. We released him in the Botanic Park, and then he became the guy who just hung around in our captive facility there. So we got to know him very well, and then we had to move him out here. So this is an old friend of mine. Yeah, he knows me. We have now 20 different unrelated wild iguanas, and that's good. That's enough to give us the genetic diversity that's necessary.
On Little Cayman, another expedition is being organized. This time it's Sedna 4 that will serve as a platform to reach a shoal called Pickle Bank, south of Cuba.
Researchers have wanted to come here for a long time. It's hard to get to, so local fishermen probably don't use it much. Scientists hope to find large fish like groupers and sharks here, and determine whether the explosion of lionfish populations is slowed by the presence of large predators.
Hey.
Hi. I'm Savannah.
Hi, Savannah.
Such a
Nice to
pleasure
meet you.
Katie, so nice to meet you.
Hi. Hey, man. Hey, how are you?
Nice to see you, man.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. John.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Mariano. Sedna's ready, so we should probably get things ready and leave right now.
Thanks first? Or?
Thanks first, yes. Yeah. Okay, here we are, Little Cayman, and here the famous Pickle Bank, where we'll be heading in pretty soon, actually. So what do you expect to find there?
We're expecting to see lionfish, but we're not sure what the population density will be. There may be a high population density, there may be a low population density, but we're going to go and find out.
And that's why it's so important for us to go there, is because nobody knows what it's going to be like there. And it's so important, you know, and it's so great to have the Sedna as this jumping off platform for us to really get out there and collect some data about a place that there is no data.
Do you think that because it's far away and that's a place where the human impact is, you know, lesser than here, do you think that we should find less lionfish than here?
Here on Little Cayman, we put a lot of effort into, you know, culling the lionfish off the reefs, getting them out of the environment. And at Pickle Bank, there's nobody removing them. So it could be that we drop down there and we find an explosive population of lionfish because there's been no human mediated removal of lionfish. But then what Neil was saying, the other side of it, is that it could be that we also haven't fished out the other large predators that would be either competing with or preying upon the lionfish. So it could be that we go there and we find a lot of these large-bodied groupers of the larger predators, and then we find a low biomass of lionfish. So there's two opposites of the spectrum that we can see, and we don't know which one it's going to be yet.
It takes us 2 days to get to Pickle Bank. And then we have to fight with the wind and waves in the middle of the ocean to get our inflatable boat into the water.
We're going to do a dive today. It's an underground seamount, which doesn't reach all the way to the surface. So it's an area that usually people do not go to. And hopefully we're going to be able to correlate it to the reefs back in Little Cayman and see how that differs.
Once arrived there, it was really strange for us because we could anchor the Sedna 4 right in the middle of the ocean. Normally it would be too deep, but as we are on a shoal, a kind of underwater mountain, we were able to anchor. On the other hand, these conditions create currents, so we will have to be very careful during the dives, because for the divers, it could get tricky.
We really hope that we come up with something that we can share with the rest of the scientific community about an area in the Caribbean that's very data deficient, unexplored, and even if we can't find a high density of groupers like we were hoping for, we hope we can still bring some light to what's going on here on the seamount Pickle Bank.
$250 feet, stand by. 100 feet. 50 feet. We're on site now.
Sedna 4, musculus, 906, 906, divers in water.
When we jump in, we don't actually know what we're going to find until we get down there. And that presents challenges for us because we can start, doing the science and then all of a sudden find out that the wall drops away from us and we just find ourselves too deep.
Our transects are 100 meters long by 3 meters wide. What we're recording are the species and sizes of large-bodied predatory groupers as well as the invasive lionfish.
Seeing large fish like groupers is already a good sign.
.6 meters. We are really on the wall, and if I move a bit, we'll see it going down, 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 and whoops, it's gone. It's very deep. And as soon as I shift a bit on the wall, we're back to depths ranging between 23 and 26 meters. What we have is the Caribbean Sea, so there's a lot of fish, a lot of life. What we want to check, of course, is whether or not there are lionfish here.
The invader has managed to establish itself here. But there are many more large fish here than around Little Cayman. That is good news.
Mike has a yellow buoy, and that's what really helps me to follow them in the wave, because with just bubbles, it would be extremely difficult not to lose track of them. So I always look out for his yellow buoy. That really allows me to know where they are.
That's awesome. Some Nassau groupers. More groupers than lionfish on that dive.
Sedna 4, musculus, musculus. 948.
948.
It was really fantastic that we were able to find this reef system that had a lot of groupers and not so many lionfish. We didn't really know what to expect going in here, and although all the data hasn't been completely analyzed and we don't want to draw any conclusions too soon, it is very encouraging to see a large biomass of groupers with a small biomass of lionfish and a lot of the intact, healthy small fish. I just keep thinking how few people have been fortunate enough to be here and do this type of thing, you know?
It'd be impossible to do this without the Sedna. It would be impossible. You have to have a staging platform like the Sedna. You have
to. It's a very pristine reef, and that makes it, next to the science, also very interesting for us to dive. It's a little extra benefit.
We saw less lionfish on this dive than what we expected. And it can just be because of the time of day.
You know, it's maybe good news also. You know, if there's less lionfish and big fish, that means that maybe the ecosystem can balance, you know, the invasion. But, you know, that's a big but.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I've done most of my diving in Little Cayman, which is generally considered to be a quite healthy reef, but there were way more fish at Pickle Bank, and there was pretty good coral cover. We did see some coral disease, some coral bleaching, but not too much. I was struck by the amount of algal cover that was there as well as the coral cover, and it could be just, you know, it's the summertime and so the algae is in its peak growth season. I wouldn't say that it was algae dominated reef. I thought that there was overall a very good balance at Pickle Bank for sure.
For several days, we continued to dive at Pickle Bank. It's probably too early to draw conclusions, but the research has generated a lot of hope because we learned that those places that have not yet been fished still contain many large fish, large predators such as groupers or sharks. The lionfish is already established, but we wonder if the natural health of the ecosystem might not succeed in controlling the invasion of this alien species. It's still too early to draw that conclusion, but this expedition does produce a certain amount of hope. I think we really need environmental success stories. The work of Fred Burton is inspiring, but there are still many, many more steps to take. We wonder if the iguanas that breed well in captivity will succeed in doing so in the wild, for example. And will the protected habitats be enough to repopulate Grand Cayman?
All of the forces which drove them to the point of extinction are still operating. The population of the Cayman Islands is doubling every 12 years. What that means is the footprint on the land here that's taken over by humans is doubling every 12 years. And what that means is that the dogs and cats that people like to have around them will be at the boundaries of these protected areas. And cats, feral cats particularly, go wild in this island very easily. And they hunt and eat baby blue iguanas. And all sorts of other wildlife as well. But they're a huge threat to the iguanas. As the island becomes more and more urbanized, we have more and more fast traffic. And roadkill is becoming one of the big problems that we have to deal with. So we are going to have to secure the boundaries of these protected areas. We're going to have to put up some sort of a barrier that will prevent dogs and cats from getting in and will prevent the iguanas from getting out, because if they leave, they will be getting into harm's way.
Genre
now we will get rid of our packs here and we'll just take the iguana in. Matt, I think this one's in yours, yeah?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Okay, so that's 575.
75.
That's good, so we're in here. Okay, here's the box. So now this little iguana, Jean, is a very confused animal, and he's wriggling around in here, but once we get him out, we need to give him a minute to get used to his environment. Eh? So here he is. So these beads, the small pale blue, the red, the big blue, this is just an arbitrary colour combination that is unique to this animal. So anytime I see these beads, I know that this is this animal. And, oh yes.
Whoa!
So now he will spend all night inside this box. But then all the stress of today's walk will be gone, and this will be the safe place that he stays close to. And probably for 1 month he won't go more than 2 meters away from this box. Okay, next. And the population has gone from about 12 now to about 650, 700, somewhere around there. It's very important, I think, for people working in conservation to spend at least part of their time working on things that can succeed. It's important for personal motivation, but it's also important for the way that conservation is presented to the world. People get very tired of hearing bad news stories all the time. Joel, there's a hatchling.
Yeah, that's great.
That's the first wild-born young iguana we have ever seen in this area. That would be like Zarko's baby for sure, yeah?
So it is working.
It's working. It's
great.
Working.
So spreading the news.
Yep. I'm just texting John Moreau to let him know that we got wild ones running around out here already.
It's a great day.
It's cool. It's really good to see it.
I got a text from Fred, and the text said, just saw the first hatchling in the new reserve. Breeding is successful out here, and that just made my day.
Zarko had a big love affair with Juanita, and the female we released with him. And I bet you anything, this is Juanita's baby, and Zarko is the father. I played a part in establishing this botanic park. I played a part in so many things here. It's important, and it makes you feel that you've done something for the planet. It doesn't cancel out all of the rest that's going on, but at least it's my part.
Eliminating the lionfish from the Caribbean is a huge challenge. Everyone knows that this invasive species is here for good. But how do we control it? We need a natural solution, because we can't catch all the lionfish in the oceans. Neil and his fellow divers have developed a special relationship with groupers around Little Cayman. they are training them to eat lionfish. This solution probably won't work on a large scale. And who knows if the groupers will develop a taste for lionfish. But the initiative is an excellent demonstration of citizen mobilization to stop the spread of the invader. But the lionfish is also feared by local fishermen. According to an urban legend, the lionfish is deadly.
There's a lot of myths surrounding this fish, that this fish is poisonous. It is not poisonous. It is in fact venomous. These dorsal fins are the venomous ones, and it's not actually the spike itself that is venomous. That there is just the delivery mechanism. What is venomous is actually inside the soft tissue here, and as the spine enters the body, it pushes the soft tissue back, which compresses the soft tissue, and that releases the protein-based venom, which travels up through tiny little grooves alongside the spine. And that is how, once the spine enters your body, that the venom can then enter your body as well. So something that I think is important to point out is that this is the liver of the fish. And what's interesting to note that this liver is very large. It's because these fish, which are wild fish, are suffering from a disease called fatty liver disease, which is not a fish, it's not a disease that wild fish suffer from. This is a disease that aquarium fish suffer from. So why are these wild fish suffering from fatty liver disease? And it's because they're eating too much. They eat pretty much anything they want. They're indiscriminate predators. And because of that, they're growing too fast, and they now have fatty liver disease.
Another way of stopping the spread of the lionfish may be to eat it. The flesh of this fish is exquisite, and governments are trying to convince restaurants and consumers to put lionfish on the menu.
That's great.
A consumer market for lionfish would put even more pressure on the species. But it's a challenge, because local fishermen fear the venomous spines of the lionfish. And yet, it's delicious.
Toast to a permanent lionfish culling solution. Cheers.
Cheers.
The Caymans, like many islands of the Caribbean, face big challenges. On land, urban development weakens and reduces critical habitats for many species. At sea, the invasion of alien species such as lionfish now threatens the entire balance of marine ecosystems. Citizen involvement is important, and the colossal work of Fred Burton should serve as an inspiration. These scientists dedicate their lives to the preservation of biodiversity, and we must never forget that it is this biodiversity that allows our own species to survive on this planet as well.